Hey everybody, what is going on? Serial Lover Drive here, and today I'm not playing any games. I'm talking about Cyberpunk 2077 and the fact that this message popped up in my Twitter feed just a few hours ago. So if you can't read, this message basically says Cyberpunk 2077 has been delayed by 21 days and is now set to release December 10th, 2020 instead of November 19th, 2020. This is leaving a lot of people very upset, very angry, and wondering what happened. They feel like there's a complete disconnect between what the game and what the press is saying and what's actually happening. Cyberpunk 2077 has been running ads saying November 19th. They're pumping everybody up. Their Twitter account just a couple days ago said, guaranteed it's coming out, it's gone gold, you're good to go. And now this, it's not coming out. It's coming out December 10th. So as an industry insider, a bit of an industry insider, I hate to use that word, but sort of true, right? As a bit of an industry insider, I thought I'd give my take on why this is happening, because I think for a lot of you guys, it's going to put a lot of your fears to rest, and for some of you, you're going to be even more upset. So let's get into it, okay? First off, Cyberpunk 2077 has been in development for a long time, and it's set to come out on a few different platforms, okay? So it's set to come out for Xbox, just this gen and next gen, or yeah, Xbox One and I think Xbox X, okay? And it says compatibility on Xbox Series S and X. So basically, both Xboxes it's going to come out on. And it's going to work on PS4, PS5, and then it's going to work on the PC and Stadia. Now, since its inception, Cyberpunk 2077 has been set to run on Xbox, PlayStation, and the PC. Now, there probably are some lag issues, and there probably are some issues with it running a little bit slower than optimal on the sort of current gen consoles, where the next gen consoles are definitely going to be able to run this thing like in all its true form. And you know, the same holds true for PC. If you've got minimum specs, you can't expect maximum graphics. But I think that's to be expected, and honestly, they've been working with these systems for so long that it would blow my mind to think that 21 days could make the difference. One of the things that going gold means is that this game is shipped out, right? It's sent to all their sort of content distributors. So this would be the PC platforms distributing it, something like Steam or GOG. I think it's GOG. It would be to Microsoft for Xbox, Sony for PlayStation, and Google for Stadia. And this is where I think this is where I think the delay comes in, because a lot of people were very confused by this last platform that's on Stadia. A lot of people don't even know what Stadia is. So Stadia is Google's attempt at a cloud gaming platform. And what this means is, instead of having your computer right here where you can touch and feel it, and yeah, you know what I'm saying. Instead of having your computer right here, it's often some server somewhere, and if you wanted to touch it or feel it, you need to break into a super secure micro, you need to mess with Google, and that's not going to happen. But what that also means is that there's a delay, right? There's timing delay, there's input lag. And, if you've got a 240 hertz monitor, I hate to break it to you, but your gaming is not going to improve when the internet's the barrier to entry, because you've got to go, your controls, all of them have to go from your computer, which can be, just a Chromebook or whatever, to a server, and then back to you. There's a lot of delay there, right? Like, even in the industry, like when you're developing software, one of the things you always want to consider is putting servers as close to each other as possible. You always want to consider that. So when you're playing off of a cloud gaming service, your server or your gaming platform, it's not as close to you as possible, which means it's not going to be an optimal performance or an optimal experience. And the other thing with Stadia is it's been having some trouble getting off the ground. When Cyberpunk initially announced that they were going to be on Stadia, they said this is in October. I think this was in October even, or maybe in September, right? They said the game was not going to come out on Stadia on release, but it would come out later. And then they changed their tune. November 19th, it's coming to all these platforms. And my guess is that Google had something to do with this. My guess is that there's some sort of contract that's been signed between CD Projekt Red and Google saying that, hey, we're going to get you this FPS on these systems for Stadia, and you'll be able to get this experience. Like, there's some contract. And my guess is it's probably an 8-figure contract. I'm going to explain why later, but probably an 8-figure contract, okay? So my guess is there's an 8-figure contract that's contingent on CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk hitting a set of barriers, a set of things that it has to do. When the game went gold, they shipped this out to all their partners, and my guess is that Google came back, and it's possible it could be Microsoft, it could be PlayStation, it could be something completely unrelated, but my guess is that someone, and my money's on Google, came back and said, hey, you're not meeting these requirements. Either we can't release the game, which, if it's Stadia, honestly, if I'm a developer and Stadia came and said, hey, we can't release the game, I'd say, well, all right, tough shit. But if there's a lot of money behind it, it doesn't quite work that way. So if CD Projekt Red signed a contract with Google, now maybe there's a potential that either if they can't meet their demands on Stadia, they're going to have to pay some sort of like failure clause or some sort of like contract cancellation clause, or Google's not going to pay them. And my guess is they want that money. My guess is that this is an 8-figure deal because of how much money is at stake here. So we know that I think Cyberpunk 2077 has already sold 1 million copies. That's a huge amount of money, but my guess is it's going to go on to sell 10, maybe 20, 30, many millions of copies, okay? And that's a lot of money in the bank. And it does affect, like, reviews do affect that. If the game released right now and it reviewed horribly, it would be a huge hit for them. They'd lose a lot of money in that long form, that long tail. But my guess is that's not going to happen. A lot of reviewers have already had their hands on the game, which shows that the developers know what they've got and they really do like it. And all the reviews so far have been positive. The only negative you've heard is that a lot of these reviewers were playing over a cloud system, streaming, and they didn't like the delay. Now, they were streaming, I believe it was off of a developer's machine, so my guess is there's some developer over at CD Projekt Red, they've got their machine running, and they're just streaming everything back and forth between their machine and the reviewer. Their machine's probably super amped up, super good, getting as many FPS as you can get on the game. It's got, you know, all the best graphics cards and stuff like that because you want everybody to have the best experience possible, and there was still input lag, and people said, hey, it didn't feel quite right, but it was still okay. And that's probably the experience that Stadia and Google are going for. And Google is betting money that their servers are going to be closer than CD Projekt Red's computer was, and they'll be able to do everything, and it'll be fine. Now, if Stadia can't get the right amount of FPS, if they can't do 30 FPS or whatever, that input lag, and then that FPS, it's going to combine to create a horrible experience for the users, and it's probably going to really hurt Stadia. So my guess is there was something in the contract, something that failed, something that wasn't met, and they came back to CD Projekt Red and said, hey, you release this game, we're not paying you. Or you release this game, you've got to pay us because now you're failing on this contract that you signed. And my guess is when CD Projekt Red said, hey, we're going to be releasing for Stadia for all the systems in November 19th, part of the delay was they thought that by delaying to November 19th, they could successfully release for Stadia on the game's like release date, which is huge. And that would be a big plus for Stadia. To be in there with all these big names, right? Like, that's huge. And I think that's something that Google really cares about. And for Google or for a company like, you know, a company that big, think about how much Twitch and Microsoft were paying people like Ninja, right? They're paying like, I think it was like $30 million. For a game like Cyberpunk 2077 to get that dropped on your system that really nobody knows about, that's probably worth more than $30 million. I'm talking about Stadia. I really didn't even know what it was until this. I'm talking about Stadia, and that's worth money. That's press that Google could not go anywhere else and get. And that's something that a lot of people are going to be just, you know, a lot of people are looking for, and they're willing to pay good money for it. So my guess is that Google's paying good money to get this game on their system, on release, and whatever happened when this game went gold, it got shipped out to them, and they said, hey, it's not meeting the specifications that we set. So either, you know, figure out what's going on, or it's not going to be launched on release, and you've got to give up this money. And this is why CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk 2077 decided to delay the game. They're going to be missing a November window. That's this window when a lot of people are buying games. Generally, with gaming, you want to release your games right before Christmas, and the closer to Christmas it gets, sort of the worse it is, right? Like if you're a parent, you don't want to be waiting until December 23rd running to the store and getting games for your kids because the best games might be sold out. You want to be getting them early. And, you know, as a game producer, you want to have those orders in early because it means you can fulfill everything on time, and it means you're going to get less cancellations because, you know, little Johnny doesn't get his game on the 25th and throws a fit, and the parents are just like, screw this, we're not buying this thing for you anymore. You're a little brat, kid. Anyways, but my guess is something like that happened, and whatever that amount of money is worth, they decided that it was worth delaying the game. They are going to miss out on some pre-orders. They're going to miss out on some money. There's going to be some people that now that's coming out December 10th are going to be going for Watch Dogs. They're going to be going for Call of Duty. They're just going to be saying, hey, I'll get Cyberpunk as a deal one of these days. I'll play these other games first. And I think whatever that amount was, whatever they thought it was, they figured that this delay was worth it. And hopefully it's going to work out. And the one thing that you can take away from this, and this video is getting way longer than I thought it would, the one thing I think you can take away from this is that this does not mean the quality of the game is bad. This game is going to be just as great as everybody sort of hoped for. It's going to be just as great as the reviewers were talking about. People have already had their hands on this game, and we know that that initial experience is good. And if that initial experience is good, I doubt that there's something later on that's going to destroy it. It's very rare for some game to have mechanics that'll work 3, 4, 5 hours into the game, and then 30 hours in are just going to completely shit the bed. It's super rare for that to happen. I don't think there's a balancing act or anything like that they're playing right now. I literally think that it was just there was some contract out there, some set of numbers that needed to be hit, and it wasn't hit. And this 3-week window is giving them time to hit those numbers, get that money, and be happy. The other thing to remember too is releasing December 10th is extremely risky. So I do a lot of development. Well, that's what I do. That's my profession. Industry insider, duh. But when you push dates back into December, everybody on that team gets nervous, because what that means is that Christmas is now at risk. I've done this before, right? Like, things need to go out before end of quarter, right? That's when revenue's reported. That's a big time for accounting, right? And for CD Projekt Red, I'm guessing it's the same thing. I don't know how the rules work for them, but whatever, right? It's a big time. And then you've got Christmas, and especially like over in Europe, they take long breaks for Christmas. So my guess is there's some sort of 2-week break that they're going to be taking, all their developers, and they probably want to take that break because they've been working hard and they deserve it. But if you release on the 10th, that means that you've got like a short window to fix all those issues that come in before your break. And this isn't good. It's a really risky move that they're taking, because delaying it by this much means that mass testing, which is basically when all of us get to play the game, could go bad. And if it goes bad, they might have a skeleton crew there to fix it, which isn't great. That said, it's not an online game, which means that if there's some sort of weird balancing mechanic and it's like you do this and it completely destroys, there's no competition, right? Like, there's no cheats, there's nothing like that. If someone cheats, it's up to them. So it's a little bit less intense, I think. So I think that's why they felt comfortable pushing back to December 10th. But I don't think we're going to be able to see any more delays, because otherwise they're really risking going into literally like Christmas break, which at that point I'd assume that they'd have to pay their developers a ton of money, because the skill that these guys have to pull off games like this, that's something that's hard to find. So my guess is we're either going to see this game coming out December 10th, or it's going to be 2021 that we see this game. And the real thing to wonder about here is what sort of contracts are going on behind the scenes and everything like that. Because anytime you see this game releasing with, like, you know, they've got the Rockstar energy drinks, they've got Porsche, they've got all sorts of things going on right now. All those delays cost money on someone's end. Someone is paying money, and, you know, there's only so far you can delay it. If Cyberpunk 2077 is dropping all these energy drinks and stuff like that, and all of a sudden they say, hey, we're delaying this game till mid-2021, all that hype's gone, all that credibility they've got with advertisers is gone, and my guess is 3 weeks or 21 days is probably about the farthest they can push it. And one thing for a lot of people, I've seen a few people saying, well, what about Thanksgiving? They've got 4 days off for that. No, they don't celebrate Thanksgiving in Europe, dude. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, maybe learned something. And yeah, if you've got questions, feel free to comment down below. Otherwise, if you just want to blow off some steam, feel free to scream at me down in the comments. I don't mind. I understand where you're coming from, because I'm doing the same thing. Anyways, I do appreciate that you listened. And yeah, hopefully December 10th, we're going to be having some great Cyberpunk content coming to this channel. Otherwise, hopefully I'll see you guys later. Until next time, peace.